Moira Magneson has worked as a river guide, artist, model, truck driver, television writer, editor, and community college writing instructor. In 2024, she was the resident poet for ForestSong, a community arts project exploring solastalgia, biophilia, and resilience in the face of wildfire devastation. Magnuson is the author of A River Called Home, a River Fable, an illustrated novella from Toad Road Press 2024. In the Eye of the Elephant is her first full-length collection of poems. She lives in the Sierra foothills of California. Please welcome Moira Magneson.
There you go.
Yeah, it takes a while. I'm zooming in from the north woods of Wisconsin, and everything's a little upside down and rickety. So here I am on my phone. I've never done a Zoom on my phone before, but I'm happy to be here. And thanks, Sandy, Monica, and Shauna, and the Rivertown Poets for inviting us, the 16 Rivers Poets. So I have three poems, and they're connected to Labor Day and work. And so my first poem in my book, In the Eye of the Elephant, is called He Drank Because. And if you have books, Zoomers out there in the Zoom world, it's on page 40. The first poem's on page 46 of In the Eye of the Elephant. And it's related to work. It's about my father and his work as a news reporter. It's called He Drank Because. Jerry and Johnny's was just down the street because newspapermen all drink first thing in the morning, good ones, that is. Patterson, Murphy, Bronson. It was boring not to. They'd heard of Wadsworth, the convert, who'd hightailed it to Salt Lake, dried up, and now was the most tiresome man on earth. He drank to have fun. It made him funny. He could tell stories, and everybody, hippies, starlets, politicians, whores, stevedores, gangsters, revolutionaries, would roar with laughter, and laughter, like drinking, made him feel warm. He drank because of his kids, because the oldest excelled at baseball but was failing school, doomed to mediocrity, because he and a photographer, both drunk, had chased his daughter's pet squirrel around her room, accidentally snapping off its tail. And thus it fell to him the task of telling his daughter about death, because the police had picked up his youngest son, passed out on gin in the parking lot of Freeway Variety. He drank because his wife drove him to drink, because she nagged him not to, and worked 2 jobs since all their money was spent on his drinking. He drank because he was angry. At least twice a week, the neighbor's collie crapped on the lawn and he'd step in it, because his editors had it in for him. His stories buried on page 22, because his mother's fiance was 5 years younger than him, because his best friend with a beautiful family and ran a hose from the exhaust pipe to the interior of a station wagon, and it was all so much shit on his shoe, and he yelled at his wife, hit his kids. Who could blame him? No one understood him, why he drank, least of all himself. And so, admitting that, he drank because there was no way out of the hard stuff. Reporter's notebook flipped open to the woman whose husband and child had atomized at a railroad crossing. The arson fire where he lost his footing on a baby charred into the floor. He drank because the bandana knotted around his face did nothing to keep out the stench of 900 people stacked 5 bodies deep in the green swelter of Jonestown. Because once he had been a good man, but had seen too much, and now hated having to tell the shrink exactly when, where, how, and why he had been drinking. hated having to see a shrink in the first place, and confess that he couldn't ever forget his young mother late at night, laughing, trying on men like they were ballroom dresses, or his 12-year-old daughter at the dinner table, matter-of-factly recounting how the neighbor fucked her when she was 4. What kind of father was he? Where had he been? At the bar drinking? He sobbed to the shrink that he drank because he knew he was alone, because at last he understood how they could easily do without him, but he couldn't live without them, and he didn't want them to hate him for drinking the way he hated his father. He drank because when he was 10, the day his father walked out on them, his dad poured him his first drink and said, "Here, little man, the cure for what ails you." And they laughed. He drank because it was like love. Okay. All right, next poem. Short poem, another poem on work, on teaching. I have reached the long moment of my life when I grieve everything. Sorrow, my daily attendant, dresses me in black slacks and sweater, brushes my teeth, moves a comb through my hair, shoves me out the door to work where all those earnest, expectant faces look to me to give them something. I don't know exactly what I have to offer except language, Elysians and plosives swept piecemeal and stained off the slaughterhouse floor, transcribed bones and sweetmeats of story I am commissioned to place on their tongues like the friar's tincture, and which they, in their innocence, must swallow. And thank you, guys. One more poem, work adjacent, about commuting, really. So I live in the Sierra foothills, and for a long time commuted down to Sacramento City College. It's called Some Days. Some days it's an hour and a half commute, the highway corridor choked with car horns and exhaust in a Dodge Ram nitwit tailgating, flashing his high beams. And I can see the man in my rearview mirror, stabbing the air with his lit cigarette, my plain brown Toyota Corolla and its medley of bumper stickers obviously interfering with his ability to lead a life free of government. When the radio delivers nothing but bad news, extinction of the Delta smelt, home foreclosures, Santa Ana winds whipping up wildfires. Some days, by the time I pull into the driveway, it's 8 o'clock and dark, and all I want to hear is the pianissimo of ice clinking in a tumbler of scotch, taste its cold burn down my throat. I turn my key in the heavy brass lock, and they come running, tails straight up behind them, arching at the tip, little cataracts of purrs rumbling in their bellies, and they weave their soft bodies in and out between my legs, rubbing off the debris and dirt, singing their kind chorus of meows, burnishing me to brightness, polishing me back to the animal I am. Thank you very much. There you have it.
Our next feature is Patrick Cahill. Patrick Cahill's The Machinery of Sleep, published by 16 Rivers Press, appeared in 2020. His poems have twice won the Central Coast Writers Award. A co-founder and editor of Ambush Review, a San Francisco-based literary and arts journal, Patrick was also a contributing editor for the anthology Digging Our Poetic Roots, Poems from Sonoma County from WordTemple Press. He received his PhD in the history of consciousness from U.C. Santa Cruz and wrote a study of Whitman and visual experience in 19th century America. Portions of this work have appeared in the Daguerreian Annual and Left Curve. Patrick Cahill lives in San Francisco. Please welcome Patrick Cahill. Wonderful.
Thank you, Sandy, Monica, and Shauna for having us. I think I was here when my first book came out as well, so it's nice to be back. I'm going to begin with a poem called Navigation, and it's actually about a cartographer who appears at the end of the poem, and he's trying to put together his world, understand what kind of a world he lives in and what his place is in it. Navigation. Windows migrate, symmetrical, exhausting, inexhaustible. Shadows drop, buildings blank. He enters his moving shadow cast before him on the walk, disappears into it. Is this a map? Roads cross, city a gray conjecture. Flowing green advances above a field. Moisture toward an orange surface burn. Wind streaks a blue expanse undisturbed of consequence as sunlight falls. A white patch, island, or cloud. Something erased, varied, unvaried curvatures of blue. Cross-section, radial lines radiating upward into an expanding airless arch. Downward, core-bound toward an imperceptible, constant, rumored convergence. Spilled ink migrates across the fabric's fiber, through its weave. A black cloud obliterating fanciful lines, shadings, ticks. The cartographer distracted, astigmatic, arthritic, lame, retains his position, though how, one wonders, takes up his much-loved instruments, begins again. This is a very short prose, kind of an abstract piece that features a torch singer and a castle. It's called She's Singing for You. Her dress of many colors, opals of sound, through pastoral sheens of greening glass, a torch singer's glittery trim, slinky and black, wind chimed, stop time, under a Gus incurable path, and dross the singer sifts through, leaf drift to slake her thirst beyond the castle's rain-streamed walls, forever under construction. This next piece, also a little bit mysterious, called Jump. A moody wind smears the mountain to abstraction. A flaneur idle on a beach of drifting sand. Weed tips restless in their burial, disfiguring the dunes. An assassin in his own right, ice biting the palm of his hand, composing this. There's no such thing as neutral space. A goldfinch sat on his hat, slept in a boat. Aboard a boat, wake up and flew away. Water on the move with attitude. Will he be there when it arrives? That howling in the distance, beyond the mountain's memory? Will he sense it, catch its scent before it jumps? This piece has something to do with movie making. And there's a word here in the first line, diegetic, which refers to a narrative or plot in a story, especially in a movie. It's called Out and About. Tubular transit and diegetic notes waver in the back lot. A puddle of soaking leaves she skips across. Romantic remnants call to the aesthete. They conspire, walk through clues, breathe together. Bird-dotted wires above the alley. Its musical notations spread across a sheet of thought. As waves of rain saturated with metaphor sweep up the sidewalk, the lone ginkgo covered with yellow, fan-shaped leaves, their autumn. This next piece is about, second to the last piece, it's about loss and grieving. It's called The Care of Wounds. He tries to spend time in a world where she still exists, a land of vanishing birds and ice. He cuts open a seam in the air to slip through, cauterizes her image to keep it from bleeding away. He remembers the cold after she was gone, coming off her absence, her ghost stretched out next to him. One day she sat on a wooden bench outside a cafe, her back to the window. Bringing out their coffee, he noticed a small decal on the glass, a blue snowflake, printing its icy image on the back of her neck, a pattern he imagined grazing the tide of living and expired stars. I'm going to finish with a piece called The Whale. And this, the images of whale and bridge come from a Hispanic children's story called El Caballito de Siete Colores, the little horse of seven colors. It's actually a pretty long story, and these images just appear very briefly. It's a nice book for kids to read, to learn Spanish, and also for adults like me. It's from a book called Cuentos que cantaban nuestros abuelos, stories that our grandmothers told. The Whale. Talk to me, the whale said, under the bridge. Would you bring me a cappuccino and something sweet, an almond or chocolate biscotti, and we will sing a whale song to bagpipes and flute and praise the wonder of jicama with just a pinch of spice. As the water rises, I will swim out to sea, the bridge on my back, and you, if you dare. The bridge in time will break apart and wash ashore and scatter its remnants across the beach. And we will dive beneath the waves and dance our dance in the depths of the sea. Thank you.